Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
We're super excited to welcome Ed Miller, an author and 60-year veteran truck driver, on today's Big Blend Radio show. He's going to talk about his trucking career and also his memoir, A Trucker's Tale, Wit, Wisdom, and True Stories from 60 Years on the Road. It is out through Apollo Publishers. You can go to Apollo Publishers on their website, get it there, Amazon, all those great places. And, of course, stop by your independent bookstore and ask them to carry it as well. The book is really fun to read. It's easy, it's fun, and if you like travel and adventure like Nancy and I do, you're going to want to get a copy of it. But welcome, Ed. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Hey, we're excited about this. You know, Nancy and I travel full time, and I know you like dogs like we do too, right? So we pet sit half the time, or we're in hotels, or sometimes sleeping in rest areas. So in some ways, we get a little bit of your lifestyle as a trucker. But
yes,
I
you
personally
do.
have been very excited about having you on the show, and I've been reading your book. I'm not anywhere near done yet because I'm savoring this one because I've always wanted to be a truck driver. And, you know, I have a lot of friends like that. We're all like, dude, it's got to be the coolest thing on earth. And I have to say, I just want to say thank you to a lot of the truck drivers in the world because you have helped me on the road. You have fixed tires, and you've also been like a guiding light in areas where there is no light. Suddenly it's like, follow that truck. He's going in a good speed, and he knows what he can see, whereas I can't sometimes. So I want to thank all truck drivers for helping me on the road.
And that's very true. People do follow trucks because they think the trucker, well, they know most truckers are professionals, and it's their job to lead you four-wheelers where you need to go.
Mm-hmm. We're the four-wheelers, and apparently you have good language for us, too, sometimes, right?
Really good language. Some of it's pretty colorful.
Yeah, I think that happens in our industry, too. Well, you have to let off steam in some ways, but, yeah, truckers
yes, you do.
Have really, there are some that I've seen that aren't as safe, but you can tell, and I always like to keep my distance. I'm really good about that. You don't need to, smell the trucker's rear end to follow them.
No, you don't. Yeah,
no,
most truckers, as I said, are professional. You get a bad apple every now and then, and it certainly makes it rough for the rest of the truckers out there.
Some areas I've been to, and I don't want to name names, like I know you had to change some names in your book too. And the areas, there's a certain area, it was a logging area, and I mean, they were really hauling, I would say 20 miles an hour faster than anyone else and above the speed limit, like 15 to 20 miles, and it was crazy. You need to be really, really careful. And so I spoke to someone about it, and I've actually seen it in two areas, and I don't know if it's the specific industry, but apparently they're like, well, this is the logging town, and they have right-of-way, and they're being pushed by the employer to go faster. Have you seen that? Because I know you've also been part of safety associations. So I've heard tales like that where some truckers are taking speed to be able to go longer distances. Have you seen those issues as a trucker over your 60 years?
It used to be pretty prevalent 40 years ago. Nowadays, you can't do that really. There's random drug tests that you have to submit to, and electronic logs. You can't. It's not as easy to overrun your logs like you used to. Some folks I know did their logs after a trip, and they tried to figure out where I was. Let's see, where was I 2.5 days ago at such and such a time? And you can't do that anymore. You can't get away with things. So things used to be that way. The drugs, the speed, everything else in the world, but thankfully those days are over, mostly over.
Yeah. I haven't seen it like recently. I just, like I said, I really do appreciate truckers on the road. There was one night, like we were driving through Shiprock in New Mexico area, and we'd been on the road longer than you should, and sometimes you have to, depending on if there's no place to pull over, there's no place to pull over.
True.
So it was one of those trips, and because we went on these crazy mountain passes I didn't realize we were going on, and then we were on them, and we're like, uh-oh. And then we were like going from Shiprock through the Navajo Nation towards Gallup, and that part of the interstate, Gallup, Albuquerque, I mean, that part is just jam-packed with trucks. But there was this truck, and I wish I could have just called him up and said, dude, thank you, because it was so dark out there. And that truck, I think, just saved my life, just
good.
being able to get a grip, too. I think sometimes truckers wake people up on the road, kind of wake them up, because people do fall asleep, and I think that's more with the four-wheelers that are falling asleep on the road doing too many hours.
Well, that's true. They do. Do you have a CB in your vehicle?
No, but can we get them as four-wheelers?
Of course you can. You certainly can.
Oh,
just go into any truck stop, and they have display cases of inexpensive to very expensive CB radios, and then if you need help or if a trucker does something that you like, let him know about it.
Are you kidding me? Do you know how dangerous that is for us to have a CB radio? With Nancy would be on there going, "We've got us a convoy everywhere," you know. We'd be
well,
to everybody, you know.
Maybe you better not get one.
I know. Nancy would be doing rubber ducky to everybody, like, "Rubber ducky, are you there? Coming in."
Well, you'll have to make up your own handles, as they say, what you go by. So that should be fun.
Oh my gosh, that would be cool. But it would be cool to be able to say thank you. You know.
Yes.
Let's talk about how you got started in this. Tell us about your granddad, because he taught you how to have colorful language too, apparently.
Yeah, my granddad and my dad, every man I knew growing up, cussing was part of the way they talked. We were around a lot of furniture plants and furniture workers, and they all loved to use colorful language, and I just learned at a pretty young age to use those same colorful languages that they did. My mother showed me that wasn't the right way to talk, but I did it when I wasn't around my mother. So I didn't get my backside tanned. Anyway, my granddad taught us, my two brothers and me, to do things correctly, working around equipment, farm equipment, tractor trailers, bulldozers, all kinds of equipment he had on his farm. And we were taught the right way to do things, thank goodness, and to be respectful of your elders, and a lot of rules that don't apply anymore, it seems. I think we're a whole lot better off for it, too.
You know, when you think about that kind of upbringing, I know, you know, Nancy would be on the show today, but she's publishing our magazine right now. She said hi. But she definitely, I've been chased around with a frying pan in her hand, and that was aimed for my backside. I've had soap in my mouth. I've had all kinds of things, you know, but there is a thing about respect for the land, respect for the things you own or don't own. And I think that kind of discipline helps being on the road, right? And understanding, you know, your career as a trucker, discipline is really part of that, right? And you know, adhering to the speed limit is part of that discipline.
Yes, it is. You have to learn to live by rules to get along in this life a whole lot better. It's sad to see what's going on now all across the country, or the world for that matter.
Yeah.
It seems like those norms that we grew up with, that I grew up with especially, they don't seem to apply anymore. So truckers, as a rule, they have to be respectful on the highway or they get called on. A lot of trucking companies have the company's phone numbers on their trucks, number one, to get drivers to call them to go to work for them, and secondly, to report if a trucker's driving either unsafely or in the same light, give them a call if they are doing something correctly. So drivers know those numbers are on there, and they seem to drive better when they are.
That's a good point. Now, for you being a trucker, I mean, you were raised in this climate of trucking and hauling and machinery and equipment. What was it that you said, okay, you know what, I'm doing this as a living, and that do you like the open road and the scenery that you get to take in? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I've told folks for years that truck driving is the best liberal education someone will ever gain. School is wonderful, college is great, but a lot of times people go through all of their schooling and they don't have a clue what's going on out there in the world. Truck drivers are immersed in it. You're scared to death in some situations in the fog and the driving rain and ice and snow. Most people don't have to do that every day. They may drive in snow, but truckers have to make a living, and you have to drive. No matter what the weather is, unless it's too dangerous and the road's closed, you can't be able to do that. But yeah, truck drivers learn to make some awfully hard, good decisions. It's nice to see them drive the way they do too. And as you said, you follow them because you think they're driving correctly. You know they're driving correctly, and it makes you feel good when you can do that.
And not too close. That's the thing is,
not too close.
And I think people do that. I mean, I've had people do that to me, where they're like, okay, this person is steady. You know what I mean? And I think there's kind of that unspoken language on the road. But it's, to me, there's also the thing that trucks, you'll see like a hurricane happen, right? And, all of a sudden, and the wildfires, Nancy and I have been through a series of wildfires and hurricanes. We've been through pretty much everything you can go through. Not a tornado, though. And I don't want to do that one. Thank you.
No,
but
don't like tornadoes.
I just drove through a section of Mississippi, and it was like Tornado Alley, where, I mean, everything was flattened. And then as soon as we got towards the end of it, here comes, was it Hurricane Hannah? That was a tropical storm at that time, decided to start at that point.
Yes.
And I was like, Hannah, no. Leave us alone. But and it was pretty brutal, and I just pull over when it gets to that point, because if you can, get over and not be in everyone's way, or, go off the side of the road, if you can't see, you need to stop, at a certain point.
Yes,
and that's why Nancy makes sure in the car, she's like, Lisa, it's time to pull over. I'm like, no, I can kind of see. Kind of doesn't cut it, apparently, in mother standards. She's like, no, that's it. No point in hurrying. But,
you and your mom probably. You and your mom probably drive as many miles in a year or maybe more than some truck drivers do, don't you?
It depends, because we do long stretches and then we'll be kind of secluded in an area for a while, like stop and work. So we could be in one region for 2 to 3 weeks. And then it's like, okay, here we go. Yeah.
Here we go again.
I know, we go in circles too. We're good at that because we keep circling back to regions. So we try to keep a very light footprint on what we do, and just for the environment, for wear and tear, just wear and tear on the car and us. So we do that. But truckers have always seemed to come in after a disaster with loads of gear, like loads of food or blankets. So there's that other side of the importance of trucking. Obviously, we get our food and we get, things delivered and homes built. I mean, you guys are bringing us everything we need in the world, but also in disasters. That's one thing I've always noticed. Like, here comes the trucks, with all the supplies to help people. And there's like a fast turnaround that I've seen. I know it's various companies, hiring out and doing that, but I think sometimes we forget about you're driving into areas that aren't that safe at that point, maybe not cleaned up or ready for you guys, if it's just after a hurricane, something like that.
They've done that. Drivers have done that forever. It's been truly great that America has seen what truck drivers have done through this COVID scare. They've driven into the areas that are so hit and infected by this disease, New York or Detroit or Atlanta, wherever in the country. Truck drivers have not quit. They've delivered the food, the masks, the run on toilet paper has kept them busy, and paper towels, and they've they've done an excellent job, and people are not finally realizing it and thanking them, but realizing that they're doing their job in spite of the peril to themselves. Like, our daughter's a nurse, and she's dealt with this stuff for several months now, and it scares us to death that she's around people like that. But our hats are off to them, and we love them to death for doing what they're doing.
Exactly. I agree. I'm very thankful about it,
Yes, we
so
are.
Now on the other fun side, I want to talk about rest areas, because Nancy and I have decided, we document parks and public lands, whether it's a community park, a pocket park, a national park. And I'm thinking that rest areas should be looked at as a park as well, because it's a place where you rest, you relax. Some people, their dogs are out playing. They've got gazebos sometimes, picnics. Some even have pollinator
tables,
gardens. Yeah. I mean, they have become a big part of our lives, and people look at us as we're nuts sometimes, because we're going from A to B, and we're supposed to get to a destination around a certain time, but we allow maybe 24 hours to just drive and stop where we want, so that we can do photography and kind of have a open schedule. So we'll kind of car camp our way around the country sometimes so rest areas become our place where, we sleep, and everybody's like, oh, you can't do that, you'll get shot. And I have to say, I know that there's stuff that happens sometimes, and I know things have happened. But I'm saying the rest areas are treated as parks, and that in some areas there's security. Sometimes there's food and drink you can buy from the vending machines. Like I said, some have gardens. Do you think we're nuts they're there for a reason. We should be utilizing them.
They are there for a reason. Some states over the past 5-10 years have been on money-saving campaigns, and they've closed a lot of rest areas. I think they've finally started realizing that these cars and trucks don't have anywhere to go. So they're opening them back up. They're beautifying them, as you've said. They're putting picnic tables in, more of them, and they are like a small park for the general public, not just folks that live close there. It's for the motoring public. So, I think you're smart in that. I would park closer to the trucks if I were you at night. They all don't sleep all the time. They're up and around and watching what's going on. So most places are safe, I would say, but let the truckers protect you.
All right. Now, wait a minute, because now I have to ask this for Nancy, because she's like, okay, lot lizards. Okay, so if I don't bring up lot lizards, because Nancy's like, she always says, go near the truckers so we can see if there's lot lizards. So can you tell people about lot lizards?
I don't know what. I haven't been in truck stops in a truck in a long, long time, so I don't know what the population of lot lizards is now. I know it's always been that, and some trucking or truck stops have tried to increase the size of their facilities, and when they're looking for land around a rest or an interchange somewhere, they'll go to the planning board, and that's one of the excuses the locals have against a new truck stop, lot lizards, prostitution, and that kind of thing. So either that or NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Okay. I see what you mean. Yeah.
You can park in those rest areas, and maybe you can check out the lot lizard thing. Let me know
you know how they
many
have,
there are.
We'll be citizen science. We'll go count how many lot lizards there are. It's like the e-nature, e-birding. We'll be e-lizarding, and we'll, we haven't really seen that many, and we do go to a lot of them. And you do get to, the thing is, it's, I think it's part of tourism too. I mean, it's like even as a trucker, you're looking at a beautiful area. I know a lot of truckers on Instagram. I follow them because they get some of the best photos of an area.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah, it's cool to me. So I think they do a lot for tourism too, to promote an area. And so rest areas are important.
They do, yeah. Well, I had a piece in the book about a site, if I had had a camera and been able to pull over with the ball of fire being the sun perched right between the two uprights of the Verrazano Bridge in New York City. It was a heck of a sight first thing in the morning.
So have you driven all 50 states?
No, I think I've been in 38 of them or something like that, 39.
That's a lot, though. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you got to do Canada, too, right? And go into Canada?
Yes, I've been in Canada several times. Matter of fact, I worked for a trucking company, and we had a tractor-trailer impounded in Windsor, outside of Windsor, Ontario. Something happened to one of the brake chambers on it, and we finally got the truck out, and it cost us a lot to have it fixed, and I got the truck back across. And then several months later, we got a registered letter that said somebody, and I got tapped to do it, had to go to Windsor, Ontario to tell the province why we were sending unsafe equipment into their jurisdiction.
Oh, boy.
So I got to go before a judge and plead our case, and luckily got it reduced from what the prosecutor wanted to charge us. So, I've been to Canada.
You got to be careful going over. Now, if you take like a load over the border, what's it like? I mean, do they start checking everything out? Like, all the, everything that you're carrying? Is that what happens? I always wondered about that. Like, 'cause we used to live in Mexico, and you'd see, trucks, and also living on the border, you'd see trucks go back and forth. And I always go, I know what it's like being searched, having the car searched on either side of and I've been through numerous borders in different countries, and you always have that, like, don't be scared. And why are you going to be scared? You haven't done anything. You don't have anything illegal in the car, but there's still that, like anything could happen because they're wearing a uniform.
Yeah, true. Just 4 or 5 weeks ago, a truck was stopped coming across into the U.S. from, I believe, up around Buffalo, and they found something like 20 tons of marijuana. And in Mexico the other day, coming across, they found fentanyl and methamphetamines, a whole bunch of it, and people, they're going to try to get away with it. And so, yeah, they get caught a lot. I'm sure a lot of things come across that don't get found, but I guess it makes all of us nervous when they go checking our vehicles, even though we haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah, because you never know. Yeah, so that brings me to a thing where you're hired out, right, to, transport these goods from A to B,
right,
or maybe C, D, and E too. Are you like responsible for those goods? Like, what happens if someone tries to rob the truck, or I'm thinking back to the old Wells Fargo days of the stagecoach going across, and what happens is what's the responsibility like for the trucker for the goods that they're transporting?
The trucking companies are responsible for the goods they have on the truck. If it wrecks, their insurance pays for those goods. If the load is stolen, if they don't get caught, their insurance is responsible for those goods.
Okay.
So, and it happens often. Matter of fact, not long ago, there were 3 trucks of frozen goods, something like crab legs, or the same trucking company had 3 loads of this, and somebody went in while these drivers were in the truck stop and stole tractors, trailers, all 3 of them, all units.
Oh my! Are you kidding me?
No.
It's like, hey, we want crab. Man.
Well, they knew what was on there, evidently, and that happens pretty often. I still watch and read about things going on in trucking, and every holiday there's a plea from several different organizations: watch your goods, because 4th of July, Memorial Day, all the other holidays, the thieves are out in force. They steal a lot of things during all the holidays. I know, because they know the trucks are sitting around, and most of them are full to deliver right after the holiday. So they're sitting there full of goods, and if they do their homework, they know what's in there, and they just go for them.
Man, I bet you for like beer trucks, that's going to be a magnet for people. It's like, bring the beer.
Bring the beer. Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one for sure. Now, in the truck itself, I always wondered this. Now, when you're going for a long distance, do you have, like, I always want to know what's going on in the truck. I'm nosy that way. Like, what do you have, like a cooler of food? Are you able to, like, if you've stopped and you're just resting, maybe not sleeping, I mean, are you sleeping in the truck? Do you have a cot? What's going on inside the truck in regards to comfort?
You and your mom need to go stop by a truck dealer, Volvo, Freightliner, Peterbilt, just next place you see that sells new trucks. Go in and talk to the sales manager and tell them who you are and what you do, and ask if you can get up in a truck.
Okay.
Trucks nowadays have stand-up sleepers. Most of them have 2 bunks in there, one main bed and one that folds down for team operations. They have refrigerators, televisions, sinks, Wi-Fi. They can connect. You would be amazed what a truck looks like inside it now.
Now, what about bathrooms? This is important.
Some do. There are some.
No.
I know a guy that drives cross country, hauls expensive cars from a lot of these Meacham or Barrett and whatever the name is. These $100,000, $1 million cars. They haul them around all over the country to various shows. And his truck is so long, it does have a bathroom, it has a shower, got all kinds of stuff in it. depending on what you want to pay. Most company trucks, they don't have bathrooms, but they do have the televisions, the refrigerators, and that kind of thing in them.
Wow, because I see truckers
yeah,
like,
you'd be amazed. You need to look at them. Yeah.
I want one because, see, this is the thing. Well, when the rest areas get closed down, it's not funny, especially at night, because we drive in all kinds of days. I have a thing about watching the sunrise as you get into an area like a town. I want to know what's going on in the houses. What are they eating for breakfast? Are they having breakfast? Who's going to work and what are they doing? It just, my brain is like that. But, I'm always thinking, the rest areas are closed. It is not funny. And I know truckers saw me the other day. I mean, it was a couple months ago driving through the desert. There's no trees. There's nothing. And when you got to go, you got to go. And if it's on the side of the highway and truckers go by, I just got up and waved. And I know that they saw me later on the road going, you're the one that thought you could hang out in the creosote bush, but we all could see you. Because I thought regular cars can't see. But then I looked up and I'm like, they saw for sure. They saw me. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, these trucks have all these amenities in there, so they don't have to stop for food, or they have microwaves in them, some of them.
Wow.
They have everything they need there.
So
if they need a little nap, pardon?
I was going to say, have you seen people squatting in the bushes or no bushes? But, I mean, what have you seen from a trucker's perspective? No wonder you wrote a book, but, you've seen a lot of Lisas out there on the side, haven't you? from being
yeah. Well, there's people stopped all over all the time, and you know what they're doing. Everybody else knows what they're doing, and the call of nature is just real strong. You got to go, you got to go. If there's a tree around, fine. Otherwise, hide behind the door, or I even see people on the side don't care.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you can see. And what is the craziest thing that you think you've seen on the road, like from being up above?
Sights that I can't tell in public.
Uh-oh. Oh, my God.
People just do. I don't know. They're either exhibitionists or. You hear truckers back when I was driving. You'd hear somebody on CB radio say, "Hey, watch this car when it goes by. They don't have any pants on."
Oh boy, here we go.
Or they're naked, or there's no tops, or oh my.
Oh my gosh. So that's the other thing I wanted to know. If someone is speeding out of control or drunk driving, I will call 911. If I see something like that on the road, and I have. And, especially if you're going around the holidays, like sometimes you're out, like the other morning, 4th of July, that morning, we were out at 1 a.m. driving, and I'm like, this is probably the worst time of day to be driving, And you watch and you can tell, you're normally when you're like deep into the highway and there's no exits really at that point, and it's mostly the highway, you're pretty much okay. But it's around the towns when you can see people are getting on and off the freeway, hammered or drunk, and we do call when we can. And so do you do that actively as truckers, or like, hey, watch out, this person's speeding crazy, and sometimes something happens medically to people too when they drive. I've seen people like totally fall asleep at the wheel, and start swerving around on the highway. So do you as truckers, do you call law enforcement, or do you warn each other about what's going on?
I think probably as much as anything, warn somebody through the use of their CBs that there's a drunk driver heading your way, or if it's bad enough, they'll call 911. They're not ashamed of doing that. Speeding, unless they're in and out of traffic and doing crazy things, they don't call on them, because truckers would all love to speed themselves. I saw the other day where Oklahoma's going to open part of their roads to 80 miles an hour.
Wow.
So some trucks will run that. Some of these trucks that guys own themselves, the owner-operators, they'll drive that fast, but when somebody's doing something stupid, yes, truckers will call on them. And wrecks and things like that, they stop and help, and there's not a week goes by that another trucker isn't noted as a highway angel for pulling somebody out of a fire, out of a wreck, or saving somebody, giving them CPR after a heart attack.
Wow.
They're doing it every week. Yep, they do.
Wow.
They do what they're supposed to do.
Wow. So what is up with these weight stations? Whenever there's these inspection stations and weight stations, and half of them are closed, I'm always wondering what is going on there. I mean, why? Why? Why do you have to be weighed? It's rude.
Well, no, because if trucks weren't without a permit, trucks are allowed. Tractor trailers, 5 axles, are allowed to carry 80,000 pounds tractor trailer and load. You cannot go over 80,000 pounds, and depending on what you're carrying, your axles or a set of 2 axles cannot weigh over 34,000 pounds. So if you have a 50,000 payload on, and most of it's on the front of your truck, or the trailer, rather, you may have 45,000 on the front axles and 20,000 on the back. So the weight has to be distributed correctly so it doesn't tear up our highways any more than the weights are doing. That is the biggest reason for weighing trucks. Trucks run lots of miles, some 200,000 or 300,000 miles a year.
That's a lot.
The brakes get worn out, the tires get bald. When truckers go across scales, sometimes they are requested to pull into the back of the lot. Most of the time there are buildings back there for them to pull into, and they check the safety operation of the truck, whether the brakes are good, tires are good, tire or rubber lines haven't chafed and getting holes in them, any load securement. Another reason for the weigh stations, truckers now have mostly electronic logs, so they don't have to go through a conversation with the law enforcement officer as to let me look at your logs and try to figure out whether he's lied on them and stuff like that. They just plug into them, and it gives them everything they need. So there are reasons for weigh stations. Many places now have a number of different things. Pre-pass, I'm sure you've seen that. Best pass and other things. Usually a mile before a weigh station, a truck will go across the highway, and there'll be a camera to see whether the height of the trailer is within proper limits, 13.6.
Okay.
It checks the weight. You go across the asphalt. There are scales in the road. It checks your weight. This transponder that's on your truck, it electronically goes into the computer at the weigh station, and it checks the company's safety rating and some other things. And as you get close to the scale, your transponder may go green. That means you can stay out on the highway. You don't have to go through the scale. If it turns red, you have to pull in.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of that technology going on, and it's good because a lot of times you see trucks backed up onto the interstate at these weigh stations. It keeps a lot of trucks from having to go in there, and everything's checked on them, so they don't have to go in there.
That's interesting, and the other thing I see all the time is 'cause especially in Colorado, which we spent a lot of time in last year and this year, and those crazy mountain passes. Like I have a fear of heights.
Oh.
And so when you're doing those mountain passes, that's another thing of, I'll just want to go slow. And I'm doing so many mountain passes, I've gotten really way better. I mean, I don't freak out. Like I do the white knuckling, sweaty palms, and we did Wolf Creek Pass in Colorado, and there's the W.C. McCall song and everything, So I'm like, and then I felt like I needed to, but after all these passes, I think practice. I'm not perfect by any means at it, but a lot better on the road now than I was. But it's nice to be in Florida. Let me just say, I'm fine with being flat.
And no mountain passes in Florida, no.
No, it's pretty nice and calm, honestly. But the mountain passes, they have those things where the brake check, or not where you have like the runway thing. And every time I see that, I'm like, I would freak out if I don't care if it's a car or a truck, and suddenly you have to go off on that side thing. Like you could just keep going. I mean, but I understand the safety thing of it, but that's scary. I mean,
Well, if you have the choice between barreling down the mountain over 100 miles an hour with no brakes, or pulling into the sand, and these truck escape ramps have been around so long that the sand and gravel that they have in them, it's been tested enough. It stops a truck.
Wow,
stops them.
That's amazing.
It stops them quickly. Yeah, they don't go up and over the side or the end of it or anything.
Wow.
They're for a purpose, and you see evidence all the time of a truck having to go in there and then be pulled out with a wrecker, of course.
Oh wow, that's huge though to do that. So now I was reading that you also had a side companion for a while, a furry companion when you were traveling.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I wasn't traveling then. I was sitting in an office when I had Sheba for 7 years. She went to work with me every three different trucking terminals. She went to work with me about every day unless I had to go out to dinner or something like that.
Nice.
Truck drivers loved her. They threw the ball for her, the frisbee, or whatever else, and she was just a great trucking companion. You see the pictures of her in the book?
Not yet. I'm only at the beginning of the book. I'm taking my time on this. This is fun. I have to go skip through, but I don't want to skip through, but I want to see her. Yeah, I just love, because I think there's something about pets. Animals they're calming, and I didn't know if you were allowed to drive with them,
Oh, a lot of truckers have. I don't think many cats, but lots of truckers have dogs.
That's cool.
Go with them everywhere. Yeah. Matter of fact, if you go to a truck stop and get to where you can see the trucks in the lot as the drivers get out, they'll take the dogs out when they pull in, let them go to the bathroom, and put them in there and leave them running for the cool or heat, and then they go in the truck stop and get something to eat. Yeah, a lot of them
I'm ready to go to a rest area now.
Well, you'll see them there too. Yeah.
We really do. We get into that whole. Well, we've also learned that truck stops, like with the little travel markets and things like that. If you're going to pull over and you need to go potty or rest or whatever, those are cleaner than non-truck gas stations and everything. You know what I mean? Like when they have a trucker area, they're cleaner. I don't know. It just seems a lot better. And I've seen a lot of casinos back on the West Coast. A lot of the casinos have truck areas for the truckers. Like they have, like a whole truck travel plaza and truck parking. And so casinos are good to truckers.
Yeah, they are. Well, they like their money. We have one about 6 or 7 miles from us here, the first Hollywood Casino, first casino in Maryland 10 years ago, and they have a big area there for trucks to park. They like their money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but sometimes because we carry, all of our gear, everything we use photography, cameras, all of that stuff, and computers and everything in the car. So we can't leave things in the car when we're going from A to B. We cover it all up as best we can, but that's why rest areas are cool. If you can sit
True.
with your stuff, and we go to campgrounds
Right.
and picnic sites and parks all the time with our stuff, but you can't leave it. And one thing we have learned is you can go to a casino, and if you park near security, you could run in, have a little fun, have a little food, come back out, and your car normally is okay. It's normally okay.
Normally.
So far. Yeah,
Right.
normally. So far, touch wood and all that good stuff, that doesn't happen. But, okay, before you go, I do want to ask you about music, because there are actual trucker albums, trucker tapes back in the day of tapes. Do truckers listen to trucker music? Because you see the albums and things in some of the gas stations, or do you just listen to what you like? And did you have specific music that you traveled with?
Back when I was driving, trucks were loud, and you had to turn the music up so loud that you had to drown out the truck noise, which didn't make things too wonderful to listen to. Nowadays, trucks are so quiet. They all have good sound systems in it. Truckers have come a long way. They listen to all genres of music, whether it's country or rock, or there's a couple of radio programs 24 hours a day for truckers, trucker channels they listen to. They listen to podcasts, books on tape, audio books rather. Oh yeah, it's quite different than it used to be. Everybody listens to what they want to now. It's not just one AM station. Oh my dad, I rode with them a couple of times, and AM stations out of Nashville and Chicago, that was prevalent, and we listened to quite a bit of them. Had to turn them way up to where you could hear them, but yeah, things are a whole lot different now, and truckers are music lovers like everybody else. And if you're in a truck stop and the windows are open, you'll hear all kinds of music. Okay,
that's it. I'm hanging out with the truckers at the rest areas and the truck stops. I am. That's it. It's my whole new thing. I am. I think, I don't know, I find it fascinating because, don't you also get to know certain roads really well, and where the best rest areas are? I mean, there's like there's a whole travelers network of things like that, it's like, I always know, like, this one area in Gila Bend, and, we always used to laugh about the name too. that was the bathroom break, and you only went to this one, and it was a truck stop, and it still is, and they expanded and expanded. They always had the cleanest restrooms. Everyone, it's the Shell right off of 10 or 8 right before it all splits up. They sell all these Mexican souvenirs and pottery and decor items. You could buy bread and milk and things there, to make a sandwich.
Oh, yes.
They have everything there, and it's like, okay, it's cool. They sell rugs. It just has expanded. I've watched that rest area over 20 years expand and expand and expand. And it is, I believe, when, gas stations do put water in so you can, clean your windshield and, the bug repellent stuff. And they do actually they keep things clean. I think more and more people will keep coming back to them. And
I've
watched that one expand. Yeah. And so it's funny how you get those things on the road that you get to know. Okay, last question though. What was the coolest thing that you transported? That you like, this is cool that I'm transporting this, or did you care about what you transported?
I didn't care. When I was in Vietnam, I moved a big piece of equipment called a sheep's foot, dirt packing piece of machinery, and that was probably the coolest thing I ever hauled because it was so big. It was stuck out on the sides of the trailer. It was high. It wasn't very heavy, but I had to put a lot of chains on it, and I got it up and over a mountain and 75 miles away to our camp, and was proud I got it there without flipping it over or something.
Wow. Yeah, that's
truckers haul all sorts of things, of course, and I think these guys that haul heavy equipment, these big 1 million-pound pieces of whatever.
Yeah.
I think that has to be just one of the best jobs around, and it pays a lot too.
I've seen like airplane parts, like the actual wings being transported, and we get a lot of mobile homes. I got pulled over by a cop in Texas. He goes, it was just down this little road, and all of a sudden there's flashing lights. So I slow down. I'm like, what? He goes, hold it right there, lady. You just hold it right there. And I'm like, okay, what did I do? And it's just him on his bike, and I'm just pulled over, and Nancy and I look at each other, and then I start to get the giggles because it was just so funny because of the accent. Like, it was total, tiny town in Texas, and it was like, you will pull over right now. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? No. And they were working on some trees, and I'm like, what are they doing? Well, all of a sudden down the road, here comes this giant mobile home. And that's the things we see a lot of, is mobile homes being carted everywhere.
Yeah,
like these giant.
Yeah.
In Mexico, we used to live down south of Ensenada, and we took this one entrance through Tecate, and you do this mountain pass, and I'll never forget this day. I wish I filmed it. They had truckers with mobile homes on the back. The mobile homes didn't have their doors on, but they had their furniture inside. So there were TVs flying up and down, and you did not, you went to pass them because it was crazy. It wasn't they weren't tied down properly, but you could see the TV shift. There was a couch and chair, and we're like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. But they were transporting him with furniture on the inside, and you could see it.
Oh my goodness.
It was like, because as you go to pat, you're like, no, do not pass. Do not go. Do not collect $200. Just sit at the back and let them go forward, because things could fly out. I couldn't believe it. Nancy and I were just like, what
happened to your car? Well, the television went through the windshield.
I know. I mean, it was like, we were just like, and then you want to go past another one because you want to see if that one, you know what I mean? Because we're kind of weird. Like, was that for real? Pull over so you can see when it drives by. So it's crazy. But
I'm sure you see your share of sights like truckers do. Many miles as y'all run.
You guys are all high up though, so you've got a really good view. And I had a friend who drove a delivery truck delivering musical organs, and it was here in Florida. When he came home and would tell people stories of what he saw, and it was some of, like you're saying, you can't really say it on air what he saw, and he was like, you are not going to believe it. And I'm like, I don't know about that would be a whole other. I think I would dig it. But a good friend of ours is doesn't do trucking, but he is a delivery. He has a company. He ended up taking over of delivering bread to bakeries, from bakeries to stores all over the north coast of California. So all through Mendocino and Sonoma Coast. And we went with him one day. We started at 3 a.m, going and getting all the bread and going to all the stores where he delivered it. And he had a delivery, like a bread van, and so everything's clanging, and I was scared I was going to go flying out. It was one of the best days of our lives. It was it's like a 20-hour day kind of thing that he did, and it was the most beautiful scenery, and you were up high. So when you're going on the coastline, I was like, dude, I'm going in.
Oh, yeah. But it was nice.
That was the closest I've been to trucking, and one of the best days, seriously, of my life. So you guys had some good scenes out there. You do. So I think that's awesome.
You're going to do better after you get your CB radio. You can plug it right in one of the receptacles in your vehicle and just enjoy.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be so much fun. Well, thank you for that tip.
Yep, you'll have to get a magnetic antenna to put on top of it, but that's easily done.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so much fun. You're going to get some interesting emails from me.
I hope so.
You will for sure. But thank
Oh,
you so much for joining us. It's been a true pleasure. I can't wait to read the rest of your book, but I'm taking it slow and easy because it is fun. Really well
I'm
written.
glad you like it. Yep.
Yeah, no, well written, and it's fun, and it really gives you a good insight to the trucker life, and I think also just gives everybody a reminder of the life of a trucker and extra to remember respect. So I really appreciate that too. Again,
Okay.
everyone, the book is by Ed Miller, and it's called A Trucker's Tale: Wit, Wisdom, and True Stories from 60 Years on the Road, again, through Apollo Publishers. Get it online through Apollo Publishers or through all your bookstores, independent ones. We want to support them too. So check that out. But we always love to play music for our guests, and today's song is called Big Road Blues. It is from Blind. I know we had to do that, right? James
Yeah,
Whitefield,
absolutely.
Blind Lemon Pledge, and you can go to blindlemon-pledge.com, and it's off of his latest album, Going Home is what it's called. So check that out. So thanks so much, Ed. You take care.
Thanks, Lisa. Great talking with you.
You too.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.
Man, I ain't going down that big road by myself. Now don't you hear me talking to your pretty mama? Ain't going down that big road by myself. If I can't carry you, I'm gonna carry somebody else. Yeah, the sun's gonna shine in my back door someday. Now don't you hear me talking to your pretty mama? The sun's gonna shine in my back door someday. Oh, the wind's gonna come and blow my blues away. Like you do, like you do, pretty mama. Why do you do me like you do? I think you're gonna do me like you done poor Cherry Red. You took that poor boy's money now, Lord, but you won't take. Lord, you won't take mine. Took that poor boy's money, Lord, but you won't take mine. You took that poor boy's money now, Lord, but you won't take mine. Talking to your pretty mama, ain't going down that big road by myself. If I can't carry you, I'm gonna carry somebody else.